All in Sports Network. We love sports.
It is Friday, October 11th, and we are 24 hours away from the greatest college football game known to man. That is the Texas OU Red River rivalry. This is All in Horns, your daily fix for all things Texas Longhorns. I'm Tanner Carlson, along with Jake Jimerson on Rogue Sports Network. You can listen to us Tuesday through Friday at noon, and immediately after the game on Saturdays to give our immediate reactions. Jake, it is OU Sucks Week. How you feeling 24 hours before the big game?
I still feel like OU sucks. One last time. Well, actually, no.
Take the megaphone off of people's ears.
Just do the whole show like it. Just keep
do
it going.
The whole show like this. Yeah, no, I won't. I feel like people will be turning it off very quickly. But no, I'm just ready for this game. I've said it all week. We're finally almost there. Normally we could say we're less than 24 hours away, but I'll tell you what, wait is going to be brutal this year. We're used to getting instant satisfaction. I would try to go to bed late on Friday, maybe play some video games or something, keep my mind distracted, go to bed late, wake up at like 10:30, sleep in, get a lot of extra sleep, and then just start the game. No doing that this year. I'm not sleeping through the 11 o'clock slate. So I'm getting up early. I'm going to get the smoker going, get some meat on there, watch College Game Day, get hyped up for the game. And it's just going to be a long burn tomorrow, waiting for kickoff. And then when that kickoff gets here, I won't be sitting. I should probably wear a heart rate monitor to see what my heart rate is at, because I know it does not go very low during the entire game. And it'll finally be time. Once that ball kicks off, that's when the football starts.
Yeah, it was around Wednesday afternoon where I was sitting in my office at work, and I was just like, you know what? I'm starting to get the butterflies. I'm starting to get that nervous energy kind of going. And really since Wednesday, I've just kind of been, I've been fidgeting with my fingers. I've been tapping my foot. I've just kind of been uneasy all week. I'm just staring off into space, and girlfriend is asking me like, hello, you okay? I'm like, sorry, just thinking Texas OU on Saturday. That's the only thing that's been on my brain this entire week. And so I don't know how production has been at work. I have no idea. I've just blanked out, and I've just solely been focused on the Red River rivalry this week. And it has been, Jake, it's been a slow burn, man. It has been a grind all week long for us to get to this point. But again, we're a little over 24 hours if you're watching this right at noon when this is dropping. But yeah, we're almost there, folks. We're in this all together. And Jake, how do you feel about the later time? Do you think this affects the game? Do you think this affects preparation? Do you think that this affects nerves for the players or the coaches or the fans in any way, shape, or form, in any capacity going into Saturday?
If anything, maybe it helps Texas. They're between Texas fans. I've kind of seen a lot of people think that every time there's an 11 a.m. start, Texas starts slow, just in general, not just in this game. So maybe it helps them having a little bit longer. I'm not sure, but I think at the end of the day, not really. At the end of the day, this is the biggest rivalry game of the year for both teams. I know there might be some people that would consider A&M a bigger rival, but I think over 90% of fans will tell you OU is without a doubt the main rival. A&M is a secondary rival. And even this year with the A&M game coming back for the first time in over a decade, I am still more excited, more nervous for this game right here, because this game means the most out of any regular season. Postseason, I care about more, obviously, conference championships, playoffs, etc. But this game, as far as a regular season game, it is a whole year of bragging rights. And let me tell you, I am sick and tired of hearing 34-30. I am sick and tired of it.
I'm just sick and tired of the just year after year. It has been over the last a little over a decade and a half. OU has kind of dominated this series. And even if you want to go further than that, Jake, to be 100% honest with you, I mean, we were discussing off air. We're looking at the coach records for Texas all time against OU. And those records are not good, ladies and gentlemen. They're not fun. Even Mac Brown had a losing record against OU. So it's like more times than not, it feels like Texas is on the losing side of, this game, at least in recent memory. And I'm ready for that to switch. I'm ready for Steve Sarkisian to dominate this series the way we've seen previous OU coaches go on 3-4 year win streaks with OU, and it's time Texas puts together a pretty good win streak. And I thought it was going to start with 49-0 going into last season, going into this season. Unfortunately, 34-30, it happened again. And so Jake, speaking of how close these games typically have been, in the last 11 Texas OU games, 9 have been decided by one score.
Yeah, and that's with Texas being pretty terrible through the majority of these games. And one of those games is a blowout by Texas, which goes to show you that for some reason, Texas has seemed to overperform as an underdog. And as of right now, because they haven't been, or did I say an overdog? I meant overperform
underdog?
as an underdog. And then it's
Over
like,
and under.
yeah,
and
I'm ready for the game to start. Words are hard sometimes.
I think we're at a point now where we're kind of just done talking about it, and we
Yeah.
just want to see the game happen. We're just ready
Yeah.
for kickoff.
But so they've kind of overperformed as an underdog, and they haven't been the favorite in many games,
Right.
but they've underperformed in those, and especially last year, because I know they were only like a 5.5 point favorite. But I expected that game to be close, but it was very disappointing for Texas to lose that game because I felt like they were without a doubt the better team on both sides of the ball. And unfortunately, the defense just had by far its worst game, and Dylan Gabriel just kind of ran all over them and had a lot of success in the passing game. And while I don't think Hawkins is a QB who necessarily should or will kill them through the air, he can hurt them with their legs. And so that's going to be something, just right off the bat that I'm going to be definitely watching tomorrow. But I just want to see Texas go out there, look like the number one team in the nation. Maybe it's close for a half, but I want to see them come out and put this team away and the game be in the bag by the fourth quarter. I need to see some domination.
Jake, only 2 skill position players, ladies and gentlemen, skill position. That means tight end, wide receiver, running back. In this year's game, touched the ball in the 2023 game. OU running back Gavin Sawchuk saw 1 carry for -1 yard, and Gunnar Helm had himself a nice little game last year. 4 receptions, 67 yards, and a touchdown. Experience going into this one, Jake. I think as a quarterback, Quinn Ewers, this will be his 3rd Red River rivalry. Hawkins will be going into his first as a freshman. Experience on the defensive side of the ball. You've got David Benda. You've got Anthony Hill. You've got guys like an Alfred Collins, Malik Muhammad. You've got guys on the defense side of the ball that have also had more snaps played in this game and maybe are expecting a little bit more really throughout. You got a guy like Kelvin Banks and Jake Majors, a much more experienced offensive line for Texas who have played in this game. They know what the emotions and the atmosphere is going to be like, along with momentum changes that they've been around for 3-4 years now, Jake. Experience, how vital is it going into this game?
I think it's extremely important at every position group, but I think the offensive line, other than the quarterback, the offensive line is the key here. And I know, surprise, Jacob's saying he thinks the offensive line is the key here, but it really is. You got Jake Majors. He has a lot of experience in this game, and just at Texas, a ton of games started. You got Hayden Connor, ton of experience, several OU Texas games. Kelvin Banks, this is his 3rd year. He has started. I don't think he's missed a game from injury. So I think he started every single game.
So.
He's come out of a game, but he's always come back and played. Mm-hmm. So you got Kelvin Banks, who definitely wants to end on a win because he's gone after this year. DJ Campbell, this is his 2nd year starting in the program. Cam Williams is the only guy who he did not start last year. He did not play, but you got 4 out of 5 people who played in this game at least last year. And 3 of them have started at least the last 2 years, and 2 of them have started the last 3. Yeah. That is pivotal up front because there's so much cute communication that goes on the offensive line. Yes, the quarterback makes calls, but the center especially is going to be looking at the blitzes, seeing what the pre-snap shows are. They got to know the defense just as well as Quinn Ewers does. Maybe not the coverages, but all the pressures, all the simulated looks, especially against a Brent Venables defense. that is going to be very crucial. And that's to me why this game is so important for Texas to win, because you talk about experience being important. Well, just looking ahead right away, next year, there's a chance all 5 linemen are different. That game's going to be a much different outlook going into it next year. So you got to win this game this year, because if you can't win it this year, I'm going to have a hard time ever picking Texas to win this game again.
Wow. I mean, it's a bold statement, but Jake, it's a statement that probably needed to be said, because you're right. I mean, the experience in this game, I think that is why the line is what it is at 14.5. And I've even seen it being pushed to 15 in some sites. Jake, Texas offense through week 5 going into last year's compared to this year's, 2,392 yards, averaging about 7.3 yards per play, 21 touchdowns, and then going in to this season, more yards by about close to 200 yards more into week 5, averaging about the same amount of yards per attempt, but 30 touchdowns, 7 more touchdowns in week 5. And Jake, that goes to show the execution in the red zone more than anything.
Yeah, I mean, 9 more touchdowns with the same yards per attempts, essentially the same yardage. Immediately you go, well, they probably had some more explosive plays, but also the red zone has to be a difference. And I'm sure all Texas fans right now kind of shriek a little when they hear red zone on OU week, because all you can think about last year is that you think about the 2 turnovers to start the game, but that goal line stand at the 1 yard line is what lost them that game. Yes, there was a face mask that was missed, but it should have never came to that, because that was on 4th and goal. It should have never been in that position. They should have been able to run the ball. And I guarantee you this offensive line is just foaming at the mouth to get 1st and goal on the 1 yard line and blow them off the ball and score on the first play, and just kind of put that in the rearview mirror and put that behind them. But some interesting red zone stats to follow this up is in 2023, for the full season, for 14 games, Texas had 61 trips to the red zone. They had 49 scores, so not a bad scoring percentage. I'm sure Sarkisian would like that higher, as would I. 31 touchdowns, which is
50%.
not very good.
Not even 50%.
Not even, or just a hair over 50%. In 2024, through 4 games, they have had 27 red zone attempts, 25 scores, 24 touchdowns.
They are
Only
almost at
7 less
wow.
than all of last year. And 13 of those red zone touchdowns have come through the air, which I think has been one of the things that has been a differential with the red zone offense as compared to last year, is there's been a lot more spreading them out, going 4 or 5 wide in the red zone, and just trusting Quinn and trusting the offensive line as a 5 to get the protections and to find one of their, they have 6, 7 wide receivers that can all get wide open. And so I think they've really used that to their advantage. And I think they're going to do that in this game too, because if OU sends a blitz, you have to trust Quinn at this point in his career to recognize there's a blitz. I know this guy's going to be open and hit him and get the touchdown. And so that may be another way. It may not just be, line up and smash him in the mouth. I don't think that's a great way to try to beat this OU defense. I think in the red zone, spreading it out and just getting touchdowns. They got to score touchdowns in this game. OU's going to try to limit possessions, just like Mississippi State did. So when you get in the red zone, it is pivotal to score touchdowns and finish them early. That's how you put teams away, is by scoring in the red zone.
Yeah, and one thing that you and we talked about a little bit off air earlier today via text was one thing that has jumped out to me is finishing quarters and halves out strong this year. I think with the exception of the Mississippi State game, Texas has almost doubled up. Even the Mississippi State game at the end of the first half, they still managed to get a score there right before it was to start the third quarter. With the fumble, that was not necessarily.
And it was on an explosive play where they fumbled too.
Yeah. And it was like the first play from the third quarter where it was like a 20-yard gain, a beautiful run or beautifully blocked run from the offensive line. And then Jaden Blue coughed it up. But finishing quarters strong, finishing halves, finishing the game strong with under about 3 to 2 minutes, Texas has been executing with touchdowns at an explosive rate. And I think that is also a testament of the scheme, the game plan, and the strategy that Sark has implemented and where this team is at a maturity level and an emotional level.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Michigan; they scored with 49 seconds left in that game at half, and that was what you felt put the game away almost, because it goes
Mhm.
from 17-3 to 24-3, and you go, "There's no way Michigan is going to score that many points." Their offense just has not had the capability to do that, especially against a good Longhorn defense. And so, if Texas wins the toss, you know they're going to defer. It's the correct choice to do in today's football, and if they can double up in a game like OU, that can decide the game. I mean, those are the momentum swings that decide these games, because a lot of the times this game, if it's not decided late in the fourth quarter, it's typically decided in the third quarter. One of the teams gets the advantage that wins them the game. Very rarely is it put away in the first half, as you mentioned earlier in the show with how many close games there's been. So I Texas needs to continue these trends that were weaknesses last year that have become strengths this year.
Yeah.
But to me, this is the game that truly tests it. Yes, Michigan was a test, especially against that defense, but this is the game where you got to exercise your demons from last year in the only regular season game that you lost, and you got to not allow OU to make any more t-shirts.
You're exactly right. Well, Jake, we are approaching the end of our Texas OU talk, and then we are going to go around the NCAA because, Jake, there are some fantastic games going on. But this is going to put a bow on Texas OU until our reaction show, Jake. And so any thoughts, any last minute things that you want to put out into the ether sphere before we make our final predictions?
Don't get overconfident. I have not talked very much smack on Twitter like I was last year heading into this game. I learned my lesson. I was way too overconfident last year. I did get really nervous the couple days before the game, and obviously I'm very nervous for the game right now, but I am not overconfident. I do not think Texas I do not like that spread for this game. And I think it's going to be a fight. I do not. OU is a prideful program. Brent Venables does a good job of. I know they lost 49, but that team was inept. Last year, they showed that under Brent Venables, they are not just going to go away. Even in the Auburn game, they were terrible for 3 quarters and then put together a magical fourth quarter to win that game. This team is not going to go away. It's going to take the 60 minutes of hell that Sarkisian has been asking for. And I want to see it. This is the game to do it. This has to be the game where you make a statement as the number 1 team in the country, and you go into the Georgia game next week, which, by the way, we have a huge game coming up in just a week that we normally don't. After OU, it's normally like, clear skies ahead. We got Baylor, Iowa State, a bunch of West Virginia, all these schools that are just not like a Georgia. Now you got a Georgia coming in a week. And so this game is, I think, the most important Red River game for Texas in maybe since the Mac Brown days, since maybe like 2008, 2010, something like that.
It's been a long time because, like you said, Jake, I mean, if you lose this game and then you're going into Georgia, or you're playing Georgia, getting prepared for the Georgia game in Austin the following week, you're looking at back-to-back losses, and then you've got a Vanderbilt following Georgia. Now, we would have never said at any point, even before the Vandy Bama game last weekend, that, hey, watch out for Vanderbilt after Georgia. That could be a possible, a trap game, if you will. Texas has a very important stretch before their next bye week, which is following the Vandy game. So, no, you've hit it right on the head, Jake. This game, if you're Sark and you're these players, you don't go into this game looking at any spreads or feeling some sort of way or anything. You go in there thinking that you're the underdog. If you're the Texas Longhorns, you have to have your backs against the wall because you lost this game. You don't have that golden hat in your trophy case right now. That's in Norman, and it's lived in Norman for almost a decade and a half, it feels like. So if you're the Texas Longhorns, you're freaking pissed off. I'm pissed off as a fan. You have to win this game, and you have to start winning consistently. You have to stack these OU wins. You cannot just say, oh, we had a good year. 49-0 sure was fun when it happened. That's 2 years ago. They ruined your perfect season a season ago. You could have had a higher seed. You could have been the 2 seed last year, And so I think going into this game, it has to mean so much more than, oh, you just got a 12-team playoff. You could still get in. Well, you lost to OU last year. We still got into the playoffs. No, that's the loser's mentality. You're supposed to assert your dominance in this game, and I think that's what Texas needs to come out and have that same big alpha energy that we saw against Michigan. They had the boombox come out of the locker room. I mean, I want that type of BDE, if you will. We need that BDE coming out of the locker room as OU is walking out and they're saying, oh boy, these guys are bigger, faster, stronger than we are. And we're going to give it the old college try, but this is a better team. I want Texas to come out just like they came out against Michigan and assert their dominance and look and feel like the better team without a doubt. I'm not saying they win by 20, 30 points. I'm saying even if Texas wins by 10 points, there's at no point in this game where they don't feel or look like the better team. So, Jake, final predictions.
Yeah, and one last point, because you kind of got me pumped up with that little pep talk there. I mean, you could have gone in the locker room and got the guys fired up, but
I kind of hope they're watching.
OU love, and all these other fan bases love putting the horns down. Show them what happens when a bull puts his horns down. It's not a good thing for the other person. Yeah. So show them what happens when you put the horns down by coming out and giving them the horns down, by putting their horns where it's not going to be very comfortable for the other team. That's what I want to see tomorrow. But final predictions, with all this said and all this talk about wanting to dominate, 14.5 points is crazy to have in this game. Teams do not cover these spreads in these games. I think history tends to be pretty accurate when it comes to a rivalry game like this. I am not going to go against history in this. I think Texas wins. I do not think they cover. I think they're going to win something like, I'm not going to do 31-21. I don't want to copy Trey's prediction. I'm going to go 34-24. Still a 10-point. I think that 10-point type of win is what this is going to look like. But I will say, I think it will be something like 31-17 going into the fourth quarter. Texas will get a field goal at some point. OU will get a touchdown. And then it ends 34-24 with a Texas win. And the Golden Hat going back to Austin and hopefully getting to start to stay there for multiple years.
Last time Texas quarterback had the Golden Hat for 2 years out of his graduating state or his time there at Texas was Colt McCoy. That's a long freaking time ago.
To be fair, we haven't had concurrent starting quarterbacks since Colt McCoy for the most part.
For 3. Well, Ellinger was a mainstay, but yeah. My prediction, Jake, I think I'm going to hit this in terms of the spread that we currently have. I think I might be hitting it right over. I actually have Texas. I think it's going to be a weird, funky score for whatever reason. I'm going to go 33-18. What's that? That's a 15-point spread. Is that correct? 15 points. And I think that's where, FanDuel and DraftKings and some other sites have bumped it up. I think they're going to hit right on that. I think really kind of resounding spreads have been around the 14.5, 15-point range. Texas has done a good job with the spread this year. They've been pretty accurate with Texas for the most part this season. And if Texas comes out ready to play the way they have, and Jake, I was watching our episode, I think it was on Wednesday's episode, where we were kind of comparing the skill positions and the positions just matchup wise for Texas. I was watching that the other day and I was just like, there's no reason why Texas shouldn't look like just the better team throughout this game. I know, again, the whole overconfidence, it's not overconfidence. I'm expecting this to be a game. I'm expecting Oklahoma to show up and play their best football, but I'm expecting Texas to do the same too. And I think if Oklahoma plays their A game and Texas plays their A game, I think Texas is 15 points better than Oklahoma when both teams are playing their A game. All right, Jake, that is our OU sucks week prediction. I'm going to shut down the graphic. They're locked in. Nothing we can do about it at this point in time.
Tomorrow.
Yeah. And so, if it doesn't return tomorrow, we're in big trouble. We're going to be in a very depressed state. So this week in college football, Jake, let's go ahead, run through some of the games, notable games that are coming up this weekend. We're going to start with Ohio State, Oregon, number 2 versus number 3. This is a big one. Ohio State, 3-point favorites on the road in Eugene with the 53.5-point over-under.
Yeah, this was actually at 3.5. The line has moved down to 3 over the recent days. I I picked Oregon, I believe, to win the national title in our early season prediction show. I jumped off that ship very
Fairly quickly.
violently because they looked terrible through the first couple weeks, and they've been starting to look better finally. Things seem to be starting to come together. Also, I wish I had the exact stat on me, but so far this year, Big Ten teams, when having to make these crazy road trips, have struggled. Even when they're the favorites. Michigan wasn't a favorite against Washington, but still that held kind of true. They had to travel. They ended up losing that game, and it was in the fourth quarter where they lost it. So I'm going to go with Oregon. If they burn me on this, I am off the ship the rest of the season. I'm going to go with Oregon outright in this game. I think Ohio State, the key for them is going to be running the ball. And if Oregon can slow them down running the ball, I think Oregon is good enough that they are going to be able to beat a Will Howard. I think this is finally a game where Ohio State not having an elite quarterback in college football is going to cost them versus Dylan Gabriel, who's in his 12th year.
Yeah, you go down the list and people are like, well, who has Ohio State played? Well, who has Oregon played? Idaho, Boise State, they both struggled with those two teams. And Boise State's a good football team. They're ranked number 25 in the country right now.
Better than anyone Ohio State's played.
Yeah, and you got Oregon State, UCLA, Michigan State. And so you go down the list, and Ohio State, again, hasn't really played anybody, and they didn't really play their most inspired game, even against a Michigan State. It's hard to really go based on who they've played against going into this game. Neither team has really been battle tested aside from that Boise State game. I'm going to say Ohio State's going to win this game. For whatever reason, I think Oregon over the last 3, 4, 5 years, they just seem to have fall flat in any type of big game, whether it be Washington twice last season, couldn't get over the hump there. And so, yeah, I just think whatever big game Oregon has played in, they've kind of come up short in. And I think this is just another one of those games. I don't think Ohio State has even put Will Howard on a run attack. He's capable of designed runs. They haven't really used him in that way. We saw it at K-State. They haven't really used him that way. They've really been relying on the running backs. They have great wide receivers. Haven't really had to use the wide receivers really at all this year. I think they're saving a lot of their bag, a lot of their playbook for a game like this. I think they're about to unleash it on the Ducks. Jake, let's go ahead, talk about Ole Miss LSU. Number 9, Ole Miss, traveling yet again into Baton Rouge. Mississippi State, Ole Miss is 3.5 point favorite, 61.5 points. Is that over under? I'd probably take the over, to be honest with you. I think LSU's defense is trash, and I think Ole Miss is going to be able to put up some points on them. Jake, I'm going to actually take a little bit of a lead on this one, if you don't mind. And Ole Miss has a lot of the outside things working against them in this game. LSU coming off of a bye week. You've got Ole Miss traveling again. They've played their 3rd straight SEC game, and LSU, this is only going to be their 2nd SEC game. It's going to be a night game in Baton Rouge where LSU always plays a little bit better. I'm curious as to where Ole Miss's energy is going to come from. Now, if they're a better team and they can kind of overcome those sorts of things, kudos to Ole Miss. But, they also might be without their best wide receiver this game. And I think that is going to affect Jackson Dart and what he is capable of doing with that offense, because I want to say there's some crazy stat out there, like 70% of his passes have been completed to Harris. And without him in the game this year, it'll be very interesting to see how Jackson Dart, overcomes that adversity. So, I'm going to say LSU in what could be a season-ending loss for Ole Miss in an upset.
I'm nothing but a man of my word, and I do not feel comfortable about Ole Miss in this game. But a couple weeks ago, I said LSU is the most overrated team in the SEC. Now I get a chance to be proven stupid, as I have with every A&M prediction, whether I have picked them to win or picked them to lose. I have been awful at predicting their games this year. I'm going to say Ole Miss wins this game, and I think they are going to cover. I think they're going to win this game by 2 possessions. I think they're going to win this game. I'm going to get crazy with this, and I don't feel great about this because they might be without their best wide receiver, but I do not believe in LSU's defense. With Harold Perkins gone, I do not believe in their defense even more. I'm going to go 42-32. Ole Miss. I'm going to ride the over in this game. You get a chance to bet a 61.5 over for a night game in Death Valley. Yeah, I'm going to ride that. I'm going to ride that horse and have fun with it and be rooting for points in this game. But that said, Ole Miss's offense, with what I just said, Ole Miss offenses needs that type of performance, because so far, even against South Carolina, they won 27-3, but the offense just hasn't been scoring against better teams, which they've only played 2. They have not been scoring at a rate you would expect from a Lane Kiffin offense and expect from an Ole Miss offense that's loaded with weapons, has a quarterback who's returning. And so this is, like we said last week with Missouri, it was kind of a, you need to win this game or you are a fraud, and it's kind of a win or go home type game, even though it's their first loss of the season. I think everyone knows Missouri's not good now. That is the case with Ole Miss. If they lose this game, they're an afterthought the rest of the season, as far as I'm concerned, which would be probably the most disappointing season in Ole Miss history, considering how good and how hyped up and how all in from an NIL perspective that the team was this year.
Well, because next year it's not going to be that same Ole Miss team. This team is going to take a dramatic dip going into next season, with or without Lane Kiffin. Whether or not that Florida job is looking a little enticing to him or not, well, that remains to be seen. So
I'd take it if I were. We'll have to do that a different week, but I'd take it if I were him.
Yeah. Last game that we get into before we sign off, and we are officially into Texas OU game mode. Number 4, Penn State at USC. Penn State is 4.5-point favorites on the road. Now, they haven't necessarily been a great road team, and USC struggling in their first couple of Big Ten games. 50.5-point over under there. Jake, I'm going to take the under in this game. And I kind of don't like a lot from Penn State right now. I don't even think they're the number 4 team. They're kind of just there by default. I don't know if they're the 4th best team in the country right now, but that's kind of where they're at. What USC is one of those programs. Again, they're kind of like an Oklahoma. They're a prideful program. Their backs are against the wall. They've lost 2 straight. They've lost to Michigan. They've lost to Minnesota, both on the road. They get back home. They're comfortable in LA. They don't have to travel. Is this kind of a setup for USC to pull off the upset this time, now that they're the underdog?
It's now or never. I mean, this is definitely a now or never game for USC, because if you lose this game,
when was the last time Lincoln Riley lost 3 games in a row in his career? Never?
Maybe no. I don't think he even did it last year at USC. I can't think of a time.
Yeah.
Definitely not off the top of my head as a head coach. He was obviously very successful at OU. He's had a little bit of a mixed bag at USC. It seemed like this year the defense is actually better, but the offense has not quite been to the same level. It took them in their first halves. Their first halves have been terrible at times. And so this game, I mentioned earlier, traveling, these long road trips for these Big Ten teams has been a little bit of an issue. And I agree with you. I don't think Penn State is worthy of a number 4, though maybe they are this year, because Texas is the only undefeated SEC team, and it's only week 6. So who would have guessed that? So I'm going to pick USC to win this game. I'm going to be consistent with these teams traveling these long road trips. I'm not a big believer in Penn State. If USC's defense is good enough to avoid some of the explosive plays that Penn State has been able to do this year with his name is blinking right now, but the previous KU offensive coordinator, I think they should be able to put up enough points. Don't forget, this Penn State defense isn't quite as good as some of the previous years. They really struggled against Bowling Green. They gave up a bunch of points at home to them. So I'm going to take USC to win this game, but I think it's going to be very close, and it'll be a last-second field goal.
I do need to make a correction. I apologize. I got the Wisconsin-Michigan game swapped. USC has not lost 2 in a row. They lost to Michigan, beat Wisconsin, and then lost to Minnesota and turned around. So I do apologize for that. I thought
they
Michigan
started that Wisconsin game terribly. They were down like 21-0 or something like that early.
Another little fun stat for you, Miller Moss, the quarterback for USC, has been hit more times. I mean, this dude has been destroyed. I believe he has been, I think USC is like ranked 111 in pressures allowed and hits on the quarterback. I mean, they are very low in those in-depth analytic stats. And so he's been pressured. Penn State, they've got a pass rush. If there's anything Penn State can do, that's play defense and have a good front seven. So I think that might be the biggest mismatch in this game. But if USC is capable of running the ball, and if they're capable of keeping Moss upright and allowing him a little bit of time to get rid of the ball, I think that they can find some success as long as they kind of keep him, a little less stained from the grass. So with all that being said, Jake, that is it for Friday's edition of All In Horns, your daily fix for Texas Longhorns. Again, these episodes come out 4 days a week, and then one's on Saturday. So 5 episodes in the week, and Tuesday through Friday at 12 noon. And then immediately following the Texas Longhorn game, we let the football dictate our schedule on Saturday. We will give you our immediate reaction following the Red River rivalry, and hopefully we'll have happy faces and we'll be feeling good going into Georgia, because, Jake, I have a feeling it's going to be a quick turnaround. It's going to be, okay, great, we celebrated OU, on to Georgia.
Yeah, it'll be one of those games where Sunday morning you come in. Normally, you're still kind of celebrating an OU win, I would think. And sometimes they have a bye week after OU.
Yeah.
This time it's immediately, okay, great win, guys. We have a much better football team to prepare for this week.
Yep, you're exactly right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to do it for Tanner Carlson and Jake Jimerson. This is All In Horns, brought to you by Rogue Sports Network, your daily fix for all things Texas Longhorns. Hook 'em.
All in Sports Network. We love sports.